Close, but no cigar for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but they do manage to salvage a point against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Are there any players that can help forge their future currently on the Tampa roster? I certainly think so.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. And if you're a Lightning fan, like I am, you're probably still reeling about last night's loss, 2-0 within the first 4 minutes. John Cooper called that unacceptable, embarrassing. I mean, clearly not happy about those first couple minutes, and it's easy to understand why. Couple of bad mistakes in their own defensive zone, turning the puck over, both times almost right to Austin Matthews, who in his own right is a pretty dangerous scorer, but he made a couple nice passes and a rebound shot that ended up being the first 2 goals for the Maple Leafs. And even though the Lightning ended up tying that game, those first couple minutes really sunk them in. I mean, you can praise the Lightning plenty for their resilience in coming back and winning that game. Vasilevsky made some incredible stops down the stretch. And frankly, there were a lot of other chances for the Lightning that just puck luck didn't go their way. I mean, the first 2 periods, they hit 4 or 5 posts. Point had a shot that hit off, middle towards the underside of the crossbar. Hedman hit one off the far post. Cirelli hit one that almost hit 2 posts and still somehow stayed out. I mean, the Lightning had so many more chances that just got denied by the post, and even Stolarz made some pretty big saves down the stretch. But it's not easy to dig yourself into a hole like that in the first 4 minutes of the game and then come back and win. There are not, I don't know how many teams in the NHL that can consistently do that. There are, because frankly, I don't think that there are any. But you still have to praise the Lightning's resilience after that first period, and that Nick Perbix goal, I think, was absolutely huge for Tampa. Little over a minute left, the only even strength goal of the night for Tampa Bay. And the Lightning did a fantastic job of screening the goaltender, not just on that play, but that play specifically. Cirelli curled around behind the net. Gonzalez and Hagel kind of converged on Stolarz from different sides. And by the time the Leafs saw it coming, it was too late. The puck was already in the top corner on just an inch perfect shot from Nick Perbix. And the Lightning had to get creative on the offensive side because the Maple Leafs blocked over 30 shots. And there's a reason why they've beat the Lightning 4 times, why they are one of the best teams in the NHL right now, and why they're first place in the Atlantic. Part of it is their offensive prowess. Nyes has had a really solid year. Mitch Marner, Nylander, Austin Matthews. I mean, there are a few teams that can compete with the depth of the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. I think the Lightning are one of them, and last night showed it. Aside from empty nets, pretty much all of the games between the Lightning and the Leafs this season have been 1-goal games. And that is, it doesn't mean too much when it comes to the standings. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, all that. But the Lightning have proven that they can play with some of the best teams in the league. They've played the Capitals really well this season. They split their series against the Winnipeg Jets. Just the Maple Leafs have had their number all year long. And last night was unfortunately no different. And we can sit here and ruminate on, maybe if they hadn't made those turnovers early in the game, things would have been different. But it kind of persisted a little bit, and the Lightning kind of lost track of the puck there in the early 3rd period. And right after Bjorkstrand scored the equalizer, they let one up a little over a minute later. And, they didn't come out, the Lightning didn't come out strong enough, and it cost them. And that looks like it's going to be the difference between first place and second place in the Atlantic Division. The Lightning, though, despite not getting into first place with one game played more than the Carolina Hurricanes, they're 1 point ahead of Carolina in the standings. So that's a team that we're going to keep watching. But right now, moving up that 1 point in the standings to third puts Tampa Bay potentially in line with the Ottawa Senators in the postseason. And that's a team that has had a really good stretch run of the year and have had some difficult games against the Tampa Bay Lightning this season. You can't, knock seeding based on a difficult playoff matchup, because if the Lightning were still in the 4 spot, they'd be matched up with the Panthers, and that is certainly not going to be an easy series. But I think there are definitely some good things to take from this game from Tampa, but ultimately, this even with the fact that the Lightning salvaged a point, I don't see how you can really look at this as a success, because especially with the way the Lightning finished the game, you could tell that they had a chance to win. The overtime, might not have needed to happen, but, post here, crossbar there, things could have been a little bit different. You can keep saying that. But really what it comes down to is those first 4 minutes, some careless puck handling in the defensive zone, and that cost them, plain and simple. I think that was really the main issue for Tampa. But you got to give the Lightning a lot of credit for some really well-worked goals. That Bjorkstrand power play was exceptional. Just some incredibly creative passing from Tampa to set Bjorkstrand up. And then Victor Hedman getting a huge goal about halfway through the period. His 15th of the season. And, again, that's just the Lightning pouncing on kind of a broken play. Brandon Hagel kind of carried the puck out of the back end of the zone, drew some Maple Leafs defenders, kind of half passed, half turned over the puck because he was double teamed, and then Hedman had a wide open lane. And, is Hedman always a shooter who's got a quick trigger pull? No. But if he's got an open shot, he's going to take it, and he could stick it, plain and simple. He absolutely, he can make those shots. He's a solid offensive player when he needs to be. And he stepped up for the Lightning big time, I think, on both sides of the puck. But at the end of the day, this is a game the Lightning could have won. You look at overtime, each team had a breakaway chance. Stolar's stonewalled point, and then not too long after that, Andrei Vasilevsky made a big one-on-one breakaway save. But, then later on, it was another chance. It was an odd man rush, and the Lightning just lost track of knives. And some of the goals, the first 2 goals and the last goal in overtime for Toronto, I think were preventable. Because especially after he had already scored 2 goals, there's no excuse for losing Matthew Knies that late in the game. After the shot, he had that back post all to himself, and open and half of the net open. You're not going to miss that, and that's how the Leafs score their winning goal. I think the Lightning just need to be more vigilant on defense. They losing Knies in overtime ended the game, and losing Matthews twice, really, and just careless passing put them in a hole that the Lightning had to dig themselves out of. But, the Maple Leafs are a tough team, and they're playing, in some ways, a lot more for the Tampa Bay Lightning right now. They have one of the most famous title droughts in all of sports, and a fan base that is dying to break it, that thinks that this year could be the year. And it's a possibility. They have certainly shown signs of a Stanley Cup winning team, but if that's the case, then the Tampa Bay Lightning are a Stanley Cup contender as well, because even in the losses, they've played Toronto well, and They just need to prove that they could beat them in the postseason. And for Lightning fans, I'm going to make an odd basketball comparison, but it'll make sense. 2013, 2014, the Brooklyn Nets made some wild trades, mortgaged their whole future for a bunch of veterans. This part isn't exactly similar to the Lightning situation, but they were up against the Miami Heat, which had LeBron James, one of the biggest players in basketball, obviously. And in the regular season, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Brooklyn Nets swept Miami in the regular season. They met again in the postseason. Miami won in 5 games. Could that happen between the Lightning and the Maple Leafs? Maybe. So can't just say, hey, we got swept by the Maple Leafs in the regular season. No chance the Lightning can beat them in the postseason. There's always a chance. And the Lightning are a team that can certainly take it if it comes to them. And they're going to need some big players to step up. And one of those players I think that he's starting to do so this season and is locked up for at least 1 year for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Oliver Bjorkstrand. Next segment, we're going to talk about why I think he is key to the Tampa Bay Lightning future.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bear Mattress. Bear Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bear Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid Mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bear Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bear Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Welcome back into Locked On Lightning. Josh Sperber here, and we're going to talk about Oliver Bjorkstrand, one of the guys the Lightning picked up from the Seattle Kraken during the trade deadline, and he had a power play goal and a power play assist for the Tampa Bay Lightning in the loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. Bjorkstrand has 21 goals, one of 6 Lightning players with 20 goals or more, only such team in the league, 25 assists, and a +2. And Bjorkstrand has drastically improved his efficiency with the Tampa Bay Lightning, +3 in 17 games with Tampa after -1 in 61 in Seattle. Another 20-goal season for Oliver Bjorkstrand. And the 30-year-old has been in the league for 10 years. Next year will be his 10th in the NHL. And I think that the Lightning really got a good one in Oliver Bjorkstrand. I mean, you've seen the ability he has to help out the Lightning offense. And you look at some of the teams he's been on, and I mean, it's even true on the Lightning. He's never been the top option, but he's been a guy who can grind on the bottom 6 side of the attack and just find those goals. And I think it's a pretty perfect role that he has with the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know, just a really good opportunity for him to be kind of a veteran on some of the lower lines, help out some of the younger players, and just kind of camp out on that right wing spot. I mean, he's a player I could definitely see on the right side with Hagel and Cirelli, even if Gage Gonzalez has been playing there a good bit over the course of the season. I see a second or third line position for Bjorkstrand because I think he's a really solid goal scorer. He's got a hard slap shot and just a nose for the goal. He's a smart hockey player, and I think that, you know, he was maybe the centerpiece of that trade that also brought in Yanni Gourde, who had already played with the Tampa Bay Lightning, already had some familiarities with the team, and that definitely helped him. So I think that his role is only going to expand at least next year and hopefully going forward. I mean, Julian Breezebois made it very clear after the Lightning made that trade that they plan to extend both Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. The Lightning think that both of those players can be a big part of their future, and it's easy to see why. I mean, Yanni Gourde has the two-way ability and is just a leader who is well-liked by everybody on the ice. And Oliver Bjorkstrand is just a really smart offensive player, a solid right shot on that right side. And the Lightning have a lot of lefties shooting the puck. So he just provides a little bit more of a different look. You know, getting a really solid shot from the right side is, you know, it's an important thing to have. And I think Bjorkstrand can certainly be that. And you can tell that just the team play of the Lightning has been really good for Bjorkstrand. I think he's a player who reacts well to the quick passing, can put himself in those hard-to-reach spots on the ice, and just find ways to get himself open for the goal. And you can really see him starting to adjust well to Tampa. I mean, 5 goals and 4 assists in 17 games doesn't seem like a lot, but Bjorkstrand's been playing 14 minutes a game. He has not averaged 14 minutes or less on the ice since 2018-2019, his 4th season in the league with Columbus. And even in that season, he had 23 goals and 13 assists. You know, I think he showed from the very beginning, Bjorkstrand has showed his ability to get goals. He had a game winner in his first game with the Tampa Bay Lightning back in March at Amalie Arena. So he clearly has stepped up for some big moments in the couple that he's been able to face over the course of the season. And he's really cemented himself in that Lightning rotation. I mean, it's not easy for a guy to come in, you know, more than halfway through the season. There was about a month left in the year, maybe 2, when Bjorkstrand got traded to the Lightning, and he has fit in seamlessly. And part of that is just his experience. He's been in the league a long time. This is the 3rd team that he's been on. But, you know, it's a new situation for him, and you got to adjust. And I think he did so really well. And I think he's going to play a big role for the Lightning in the playoffs. Just, again, just adding some forward depth and giving the Lightning another, you know, really key piece that whatever line he's on, he can just score. And he could see a couple of new teammates in the next few weeks. Luke Glendening did not return to yesterday's game. Jake Gensel missed for family reasons. So no telling how long those guys are going to be out just yet. We could see some guys from the AHL get called up, and then I think the Lightning will see that Bjorkstrand can step up as a leader as well. I mean, he really seems like a team guy. Even last night, he scores his goal, and, you know, before he even starts celebrating, he just skates over to Kucherov, who gave him the pass, just to give the best player in the NHL an attaboy, a thank you, whatever it was. I mean, that, you know, that's a team guy, especially in that situation. And yes, I understand a game-tying goal is better celebrated with your team. I get that. But I know if it were me scoring a game-tying goal, the first thing I'm doing is, you know, jumping up where I am and screaming. Then I'm going to my teammates and celebrating with them. But Bjorkstrand just seemed to be more happy for the team part of the goal rather than he himself being the guy who scored it. And I think that style of play, you know, that kind of silent assassin that Bjorkstrand has really been, because he's a pretty soft-spoken guy. Not a guy who's going to be talking a lot on the ice except for just general teammate communication. But Bjorkstrand, I think, is just really fitting in nicely with the Lightning, and I think the Lightning should make him a big part of what they do going forward. I think he's got at least another good 4 or 5 years left in him in the NHL, and the Lightning should take as much advantage of that as they possibly can. He's making only $5.4 million this year, which isn't too much considering some of the other names the Lightning have hitting their salary cap, but I think he's someone the Lightning should definitely try and lock up for the foreseeable future, because I believe that he is fit in nicely with his new teammates. His role on the Lightning offense, I think, is a really good one for him. And he's someone that can be a big impact player in this upcoming postseason and in the future for the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. And there are plenty of other players who have made big impacts that have been felt not just by the Tampa Bay Lightning, but by the entire NHL. And some of these awards I've talked about a little bit, but most of them I haven't. And we're going to focus on two: the Lady Byng Trophy and the Frank J. Selke Trophy. Why I think there are two Lightning players who need to be strongly considered for those roles, and one a little bit less surprising involving the Tampa Bay Lightning captain. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snackin' and get crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. One last segment here on Locked On Lightning, and we've talked a lot about some award trackers, and we've looked at some of the more obvious ones, I think, when it comes to Lightning players. Kucherov now tied with Nathan MacKinnon for the lead in the Art Ross Trophy race. For me, I think he should lock up the Hart Trophy. We've talked about Vasilevsky for Vezina. He's definitely been the best goalie in the Eastern Conference, but will face some stiff competition from Connor Hellebuck for a goaltender's highest honor. But there are a couple other trophies I feel like I may have overlooked just how possible and in some ways likely I think it is for a Lightning player to win it. Starting with the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy, Braden Point is a guy that certainly has to be in the running for it. Now, he did get in his first fight of the season last night. First time in 2 years that he dropped the gloves. Funnily enough, the last guy that he had dropped the gloves with ended up becoming his teammate, Mikey Eyssimont, who is now with the Seattle Kraken after being dealt for Oliver Bjorkstrand and Yanni Gourde. Other than that, though, Point has just 2 penalty minutes. So 1 fight and 1 other penalty taken. 7 penalty minutes, by far the fewest on the Tampa Bay Lightning, with the exception of the AHL call-ups, each of which have not played more than 5 games with Tampa Bay. I mean, just 1 penalty taken and then 1 fight, but 79 points. I mean, there are not too many players in the NHL right now who have that combination of points and lack of penalty minutes. And the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy is awarded to the NHL player every year who, quote, best demonstrates sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high standard of playing ability. And I think that's certainly the case for Braden Point, considering this fight was the first penalty he's taken since November. And especially with a guy like Point, with his speed, a guy who's around the puck as much as he is, that is not easy to do. So I think Point has definitely been one of the best players in the NHL, just in terms of his skill and his talent on the ice. But it's also how he conducts himself as a person on the ice and off the ice that makes him not just one of the best players in the NHL, but one of the best people in the NHL. And I think he certainly merits consideration for the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy, though LA Kings' Ans Kopitar has 62 points in just 4 penalty minutes he certainly has to be considered for it as well. But Braden Point is among the league leaders in goals, fifth most with 41. And one penalty back in November for tripping, and then this fighting penalty last night, which, is against the team that is closest to the Lightning in the standings. If you're going to fight anyone, fight someone on the Maple Leafs on the Lightning right now. I mean, plain and simple. That's the next closest team you got. It seems like a no-brainer to me. But I think that is an award the Lightning could get, the James Norris Memorial Trophy, given to the best defender in the NHL. And the captain, Victor Hedman, is a guy who has to be considered for that trophy every single year. Since came into the league, Hedman has proven to be one of the best defenders in the NHL. And once again, he's leading the Lightning in ice time and among the leaders in the NHL in ice time. And by any metric, he's one of the best defenders in the NHL. Top 10 in points and assists, and top 10 in goals as well. 8th highest in power play points, and he can shoot it close to 100 miles an hour. The fastest shot of any of the top 10 scorers in defense. So is Hedman classified mainly as a two-way player? Maybe not, but his passing is great. I think there are a few defenders who can compare to Hedman in terms of their ability to move the puck up the ice in transition. And his defensive play, I think, has also sparked the two-way ability, not just himself, but in the rest of the Lightning players around him. The Lightning have one of, if not the highest scoring defensive unit in the NHL. And a big reason for that is Victor Hedman. I think he really sets the precedent of a defender, playing that middle ground between coming up the ice to join the offense and coming back on defense. His goal in the game against the Maple Leafs, I think, was the perfect example, because Hedman was kind of dropping back a little bit, started to come up when Hagel was getting chased, and then pounced on the loose puck, found the open net, tied the game. And we've seen moments like that from Hedman time and time again throughout his Lightning career. He has already won the Norris Trophy once, and this season he could win it another time. And of the awards, I know I've talked about this one before, the Frank J. Selke Trophy. I think that of all of the Lightning awards that they could win this season, this one is the closest to a lock, and that's Anthony Cirelli taking the Frank J. Selke Trophy for the NHL forward who, quote, demonstrates the best skill on defense. And for me, this is an absolute no-brainer. I don't think the Lightning would be in the position that they're in right now without Anthony Cirelli. He's in the 97th percentile for expected goals against per 60 minutes played. And, I mean, any way you slice it, shorthanded, one-on-one, whatever it is, Cirelli is a defensive dynamo for Tampa Bay. Most of his shifts, 58% to be exact, begin in the defensive zone. And he's in the top 25 among NHL forwards in blocked shots as well. And he's a guy who's always willing to put his body and, in a lot of cases, his face on the line for Tampa Bay. He's worn the full face shield at multiple times because he's gotten hit in the face with a bunch of pucks. And Cirelli is always in the game towards the end of it in key defensive situations, penalty kills, whatever it is. Cooper wants Cirelli in the game, and I think any other coach who has him would. I think Brandon Hagel also could merit consideration for the Frank J. Selke Award, but I think that this one is a no-brainer. I don't think there's been a better two-way forward in the NHL this season, and Cirelli has contributed really well on the offensive side of things. Career highs for Cirelli in goals and points, with 26 goals, 28 assists, 54 points on the season. And it's his first 50-point season. He's 2 assists away from his first 30-assist season and 1 assist away from officially setting a career high in assists. 6 goals clear of his best goal season. So the offensive output is there as well. but it's been the defense that, as the season has rolled on, has gotten more and more impressive for Anthony Cirelli. And it's shown when he has locked up some big-name forwards in really big moments of the game. And that is where we're going to leave you tonight. Lightning have a couple of big games coming up this weekend, including tomorrow's showdown against the Detroit Red Wings. And we'll have coverage of that in a preview fashion on tomorrow's show. Until then, I'm Josh Sperber, and I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. And now for your second listen, make sure to check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And wherever you found today's podcast, please give us a like, follow, and a subscribe. We really do appreciate your guys' support. So once again, I'm Josh Sperber, thanking all of you for tuning in. Go Bolts, and have a great Thursday.